And in so doing, many will finally understand the words that they have been uttered, which state that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but rather we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And thus, when the events of the next few months have served their divine purpose, and when the death and destruction have shaken us from our material obsessions and given birth to our awareness of the eternal spirit that connects us all, we will learn to see the world in a new way, where even death and destruction, which humanity has denied and feared for so long, are seen to have a place and a purpose for which to be thankful and loving. And as these increasingly intense events unfold in the coming months, they will teach humanity the lessons of pride and humility, by demonstrating the futility of our efforts to control the world outside of ourselves. And when people finally tire of wishing that the world was something that it isn't, and when they learn to be at peace with the way things are, for they see it all as part of the divine plan, then may they also learn to see that exerting one's personal will to try to stop these events from happening would be like trying to stop others from having the same opportunity for learning. For it is our selfishness and our ignorant use of free will that has brought us collectively into our present state of existence. Therefore, perhaps it is only by a 180-degree reversal, through selflessness, through the complete and utter surrender of ourselves and our personal will to the divine will of the Tao, that we may allow the forces of true change and redemption to work through us and liberate us completely from the unholy illusion of this world. And for this reason, some believe that it will be the tremendous shifting of outer events in the months between now and October 28, 2011, that will inspire humanity's inner shift, helping them realize that we cannot, nor are we meant to change our outer world in order to find peace, but rather we are urged to turn inwards, to seek and find the eternal peace that comes when one learns to see the divine purpose and perfection of all. And it is with this unified perspective of existence that one learns to relinquish my will for thy will, thereby realigning himself with the divine will and marking their long-awaited return to one. So when will these major changes occur in our outer reality that will encourage humanity to make its inner shift back to one? For the past few years, hundreds of millions of people around the world have been preparing themselves for an event that they believe will occur on December 21st, 2012, that will either bring the end of the world or the birth of a new reality. However, an understanding of the Mayan calendar discovered through Swedish researcher Carl Kalleman's study of ancient Mayan monuments, when compared with the escalating intensity of upcoming global events, shows the probability that those world-altering events could happen in the next few months between now and October 28, 2011. Considering the recent development of upcoming earthly and cosmic events that are set to unfold this year, which we will discuss shortly, this shift of perspective from 2012 to 2011 is one that people all over the world are starting to awaken to. While even the Mayans themselves, who have never given a specific date for when we could expect these big changes to occur, as they see the shift more as a process that occurs over time than an event that occurs on a given day, even the Mayans are now saying that great change will come in 2011. And thus it is our intention with the presentation of the following information to encourage people to prepare for the possibility that the world could be greatly changed this year. For the magnitude of shifting events that are set to unfold in the next couple of months could be so great that anyone caught still waiting for things to happen at the end of 2012 might be so shocked by the suddenness of events that all they will be able to do is react in fear, thereby making them more easy to control, while at the same time blinding them to the divine purpose and opportunities that are present in the moment. That said, let us explore Kalleman's work and how it illustrates October 28, 2011 as the end of the Mayan calendar and the birth of a new reality. Though to many the Mayan pyramid is simply a monument used for ceremonies and sacrifice, Kalleman's research reveals that the Mayan pyramid is in fact a calendar of evolving consciousness. where each of its 9 steps, also known as waves or underworlds, are related to a specific type of consciousness that is learned during the period of time that it takes us to move from the beginning of each step towards its end. Which in doing so, it is said we are moving from seed to fruition of the consciousness that is the focus for that level. Interesting to note is that each step of the pyramid or underworld is divided into 13 equal segments, comprised of alternating dark and light energies referred to as days and nights, which are as necessary for the growth and expansion of our consciousness as the cycles of night and day are for the harmonious growth of our Earth's surface-dwelling ecosystems. These 13 equal segments of time are referred to as heavens, or stages of creation, each of which is related to a specific Mayan deity, and a stage of growth or learning that occurs during each period of time. Also essential to note here is that each time we step up a level on the pyramid, things speed up by 20 times, which it is said occurs because, as we learn the lessons toward the end of each step, the vibrational frequency of our collective consciousness, and therefore our reality, rises by 20 times. Thus, to illustrate how the Mayan pyramid is a calendar of evolving consciousness, and how it relates to the birth of a new reality by October 28, 2011, let us look at the bottom step of the pyramid referred to as the cellular underworld. This step charts the evolution of cellular consciousness from the time of the Big Bang to the creation of the first highly organized cells, and finally to the full realization of cellular consciousness. The period of time it takes to move from seed to fruition of this consciousness is 16.4 billion years, divided into 13 equal segments of 1.2 billion years, which means that during this phase of creation there occurred a subtle shift in consciousness every 1.2 billion years that brought the collective mind to a deeper experience of the cellular underworld. To explain this further, let's move to the 8th step on the pyramid, known as the galactic underworld, and whose focus for learning is ethical consciousness. Remember here that each time we move up a step on the pyramid, that things speed up by 20 times. And so, where consciousness at the bottom of the pyramid was changing roughly every 1.2 billion years, when we moved up to the 8th step, which began on January 5, 1999, consciousness, which on the step just below was changing every 19.7 years, then on the 8th step began to shift every 360 days, with a focus on the collective development of our ethical consciousness. This development of our ethics can be seen quite clearly when we look at the new perspectives that have arisen in the collective mind since January 1999. For it has been since this time that humanity has taken its greatest strides to purify its ethical perspective, by realizing the impact that our choices have on the healthy, harmonious existence of ourselves, the earth, and all living things. And as a result of our growth and learning during this period, we have been raising the frequency of our collective consciousness, and thus the vibratory rate of existence, thereby resulting in the speeding up of everything by 20 times that occurs as we near the fruition of learning on each step of the pyramid. And it is this increase in the vibration of consciousness that is responsible for the sensation of the quickening that so many people are experiencing around the world. For as the vibratory rate of our consciousness speeds up, so does everything in creation, including time and awareness. To get a better understanding of the process of this quickening that is leading us to its climax on October 28, 2011, let us consider the 7th wave that began in 1755 AD at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, at which point consciousness began shifting roughly every 19.7 years, until January 5, 1999, when it sped up again and began shifting every 360 days. This is why we had what were referred to as generation gaps in the time before January 1999. Because prior to that date, our consciousness shifted at a slower rate. When a new thought was introduced to the world, it would take a longer period of time for our consciousness to assimilate that concept. For instance, when the perspective that women are equal to men was presented to the Western world, it took roughly 20 years for that seed of an idea to take root. However, for those who were alive for 40 or 60 years before that idea